good afternoon. Had a good morning? Excellent. So you might have guessed I'm Paul from Get Abstract. I'm the account manager here. And this is my customer, Emma, from Legal and General. We're going to be talking today about curiosity. And it's not just us talking about it, because you've got Stefan van Hooydonk, One, talking about it in his book, which we'll get to later. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of background about Get Abstract. Some of you might know us, many of you may not. So if I could ask you to move on. Thank you very much. So just a few minutes about us, and then I'm going to hand over to my guest. So Get Abstract is a Swiss company. We've been going 23 years. I'm not going to read those points to you, but I'm going to describe to you our purpose. And we know that you're busy. You haven't got time, people. We've never had so little time to learn so much in our lives. And we've become the masters of compressing knowledge. So we take books and reports, videos, and we make them really accessible fast. That's our purpose. That's what we do. There's various numbers around that, but we do it, and we work with probably the best kept secret of the FTSE and Fortune companies. So that's Get Abstract. And the purpose of that is about helping people become better. So that's us. But I think what's really important is the time, what you can learn in 15 minutes. That's Get Abstract. Today's topic is all about curiosity. And I think it's important maybe to move away from the theory and give ourselves a chance to listen to a company that's doing it. So Emma, I'd love to hand over to Emma, but before I do, Emma is a people development consultant in Legal and General, and for the last 2 years in particular has been working on really changing mindsets, really having an impact on the people across this well-known brand. She's really is an activist for changing culture, and actually they won an award last year. They won the Gold Learning Technologies Award for a blended learning program. So it gives me great pleasure to hand over to Emma. And by the way, she's a dog person and she looks after them. So if you have any interests or questions on dogs at the end, ask her.
I know you'd rather hear about dogs, but today...
So what is intentional curiosity? Over to you.
Thanks, Paul, and hi everyone. So I think what we mean by cultivating intentional curiosity at L&G is about creating the right environments so that people can learn about the things that they're interested in. And it's about people asking really, really great questions and being really curious about what we can do. So we're trying to create that environment that allows people to do that. And without that environment that welcomes curiosity, what we'll do is we'll get people doing the same thing the way they've always done it, because that's the way it's always been done. So what we're trying to change is that culture, getting people to question. And it makes me think about when we're children, okay? When we're a child, we constantly ask the question, why? Why, who, what, how? And I was reflecting actually that I was that annoying kid that was constantly like, Mum, but why? Why are trees green? And she'd probably just be like, Emma, can you just please be quiet? But in the world today, we want to really welcome that and to have that culture. Now, by cultivating curiosity, we want people to really be reflecting on them vital questions: the why, the how, or the who.
So Legal and General is a fairly big team. How do you do that? How do you get that subject into action?
Yeah, so I'll probably tell you a little bit of a story of what we've been doing. So I'll start with the why, and then I'll let you know about the how. So how it all started is we started reviewing our skills in our business. So every year we do something called a strategic workforce plan. We have a look at the skills we need to buy, borrow, build, etc. And I can probably say with confidence, it's no surprise that the skills that really came out were data, digital, and agile ways of working. So, our board was like, hey, go and upskill everyone in this. And we were like, okay, well, let's just do a little bit more further digging. What's going on for people here? And actually what we found was that we needed to change the mindsets and behaviors around these capabilities before actually giving everyone the tools. Because if we would have upskilled everyone in, say, Python, old language, but Python, if they would have been upskilled in it, they wouldn't have known what questions to ask around the software to even start using it in the right way. So we really needed to change that mindset and behavior. So we we started to think about like how do we do this, and actually it opened up some wider challenges that we face, which is how do we change how the business sees learning? How can we create an environment of innovation? And how can we challenge that status quo? So what we started to do is put ourselves in the shoes of the learner. And I'm quite honest, you know, I was doing some thinking. I was like, well, hey, if I'm not interested in something, I'm not going to learn about it, really. I'm one of these people, and I'm a learning professional, and I shouldn't be admitting to this, but I'm one of these people that if someone tells me to do a CBT, it is going to take me a while to do it because I'm not interested in it. Though it is a part of my job, I'm not interested in GDPR. So, you know, how do I get people to think differently? And also, people don't have the time to learn. So again, that mindset around what time do I have to actually learn? And if I'm not interested in it, or it's not, I can't see the connection of how it's relative to my job, why should I go and do that? So how do we create people being more curious? Well, one of the oldest tricks in the book is how do we create FOMO? How do we create that fear of missing out? What is everyone else doing? How are they doing it? Why are people talking about that division and what they're doing with that division? So we started to look at our business, and it was it's very federated. And I actually found that people were hiding things that they were doing. So people would be like, oh, well, let's hold this talk, but just for this division. And I was like, well, why aren't you elevating that? Why aren't you showing the whole business what you're doing? So we wanted to create this FOMO, feeling that people were missing out, and we wanted to really intentionally start to create that. And the best place to start is actually around topics that people know something about, but not everything about. Because our brains actually get an itch. So the neuroscience will tell us that if we know something about something, but we don't know the full picture, and it's being talked about, we'll want to go and learn more about it. But we need to be careful with that too, because if we give everything, then actually people go the opposite way in their minds. They actually get put off by that topic as well, which I'll go on to a bit later. And this is how we created something called Get Curious and Stay Curious. So, Get Curious is simply elevating the great minds in our business. What are people talking about when it comes to these skills? How can people really stay relevant, and why is it important to them to be involved? And we did this really simply by advertising the events and marketing it, which I'll go into a bit more detail in a little bit later, but really helping to lift the lid on all these federated business areas and come together. But we've got them interested. How do we keep them interested? How do we keep them curious? And what this was is we started to build, and I'm focusing on Stay Curious About Data, which is one of our sites, but we built communities, Learning Hive, learning platform. And these online communities involve content, they involve polls, abstracts, videos, and they're aimed to get people sharing their own content. It's about co-creating as a business of the people on the ground what's going on, what they're interested in, sharing really stuff that they're finding interesting themselves, and it's creating that cross-divisional connection. We really wanted to start removing barriers to execution as well, because by opening this up, by people saying, hey, you know what we're doing in Legal and General Investment Manager? We're creating a data marketplace where we're bringing everything together and they'll be able to talk to one another. Someone posted that, and then another person from another division went, actually, we've started a bit of that piece of work. How can we now join up? And actually that's saving time, effort, lots and lots of different benefits. And as I say, the content is actually released iteratively, because as I say, when the brain, research shows that by keeping people's interest, you have to keep drip feeding a little bit of content to bring them back. And we use nudge theory to do that as well within the Hive platform.
So Emma, I'll put the mic a bit closer this time. How do you make self-learners? Do you think they are self-learners, or is this how you do that? I mean, how do you achieve that?
Yeah, no, self-learners is hard to do, right? Because you can take a horse to water, you can't make it drink. It's that whole saying. But what we've tried to do with Get and Stay Curious is really make it about them. So I think marketing has a real element here. The amount of businesses I've been in that say, learn this because it betters our business. Actually change that narrative, learn this because it'll better you. If you leave L&G, these are the skills in the industry that you're going to really need. These are the skills that people want to see, no matter what role you're in. Being data-driven, asking the right questions, having that curious mindset. These are the things that employees really, really need in the industry. I think the element of co-creation and working with the business and it not being a HR thing really helps people want to be involved. Because if they can see their peers being involved in it and creating the content, they want to get involved and they're going to want to go and read what David's done and what Julie's done. And instead of Emma Radley going, hi guys, come and learn about this, it makes it different for them and it makes them want to come back. And then I think the last thing is it's about knowing your audience. As you mentioned before, Get Abstract is great because of the digestible content in a short amount of time. If I give somebody an hour's article to read, they're not going to read it. It needs to be quick, fun, interactive, approachable, and actually getting them to think. So posing questions for them to really reflect. So short, digestible content that follows the read, watch, listen rhythm.
You can say time, I'm a bit biased because Get Abstract, but is time a barrier to everything? To making people curious, keeping them curious? Where does time fit?
Yeah, time is absolutely something that we hear constantly. I don't have time for learning, But actually, I was said at the beginning that was one of the critical things we needed to change, how people see learning. That's because of the way that people are seeing learning. They're seeing it something separate to their work, something that they do separately. And actually, we need to change that mindset and behavior around what is learning. Learning is in the work. It's about accessing content in the right time, in the time of need, whilst you're doing projects, etc. It's about learning from them failures, and it's about getting them experience as well, putting yourself in experiences. So learning really needs to be in the flow of work. So that's where we're trying to change. I think how we're doing this is, as I say, it's in two ways. It's cultivating intentional curiosity, so through them experiences, them interactions, games, workshops, and elevating them talents and breaking down that federated business, breaking away from silos. And then it's also these online communities, the self-serve content, co-creating, and also insight-led. So we just want to be really thought-provoking with the content as well.
Thank you. And the other thing is digital resources per se. How do you keep people engaged digitally? Is that itself a challenge?
Yes. So basically, this platform's really great because it allows people to interact with fun content, and by embedding them polls, them action checks. Action checks are great, by the way. It's about, try this, and then people go, okay, I'll try it, click on it. That'll then go into their Outlook, and then they'll be like, oh, that'll pop up. The next meeting I'm in, I'm going to try this approach to that meeting. And again, that's making it in the flow of work. So that's what we're really trying to do there. And as I said before, it's about being the insight-led. So what are people asking for? What do people really need? How are we using this community to show us what content people are looking at? And what discussions that people are having. And you can see here a few of the posts. I've tried to block out their names, but a few of the posts that have happened that are being led by that business. So yeah, it's about using that insight to really mold what content comes next, so it makes it more purposeful. And I think as well, you can see by some of these analytics, if I'm saying about insight-led, we launched this community actually to the wider business on the 1st of April, and it's the first time, it says 10th of March, but that was open previously, but the 1st of April, and this is the first time L&G have ever had something like this for all employees, no matter who you are, where you are, etc. in the business. And since then in 6 months we've had nearly 6,000 views. And what this is showing me is actually there's still some work to do, right? So we can see that people are answering polls and really wanting to interact with them polls and them questions. But what they're not interested in is maybe posting and putting themselves out there, that psychological safety, maybe that's still something I need to work on. Are they feeling safe to post ideas and problems together? And then obviously comments as well is low there too. So again, I think being that insight-led will help me then plan what do people actually need, what they're interacting in, and what are the problems that we're facing as well.
And that data looks a lot better than when you arrived. I remember you said there was 30 views of one item.
Yes, yeah. So we prior to me, we had a platform called the Learning Hub, and there was just videos on there, but we were getting like 30 views. We've got 8,000 employees, so it was a bit like, oh, okay, what's gone on here? So it's showing that hopefully by being business-led and lifting the lid on what everyone's doing rather than working in silos is drawing a little bit more interest and curiosity to this platform.
Now I'm going to ask you a difficult question. She is warned about it, but next few years, next 12, 18 months, what innovations do you think L&G will focus on? Curiosity is a strategic platform. We need everything you're doing, but what's around the corner? What's next?
Yeah, sure. This is such a hard question to answer, and I tell you what, I've wrote this out like 6 different times because there's various different avenues you could go down with this. So I'd be really keen to hear your reflections as well and learn together. But I really think, and I'll try and keep it to 2 things. So I really think what's going to change is how people and teams in the organization work together. So I see there being more fluid movement in between roles that will in aid of solving business problems. So what I mean by this is instead of making singular teams solve a problem, is actually thinking about the different skills you have in the business and then coming together to solve that problem for the business. Because right now, if you're facing a problem, you think, oh, I'm the expert, I need to solve it. But actually, I'm probably only using one side of my brain. And I actually probably need a lot of different thoughts and collective views and somebody using the other side of their brain to help innovate and make that solve that problem. So in short, cross-disciplinary collaborations that will trigger new possibilities and innovation, and we'll learn more from each other. And to be quite frank, I think it'll be a lot more fun that way as well. I think we'll learn something new about ourselves every single day. And then lastly, I think what we'll see is companies embedding curiosity into their business culture. It would be amazing if we saw people really embracing this and changing the way that even leaders hold team meetings. Coming to that team meeting and going, this is the problem, let's talk about how we'll solve it. And I think it'll be fantastic if that curiosity is welcome, because I think sometimes we're shy away from it because sometimes we can see it as a problem, because that's what you're doing, right? You're lifting the lid on problems and you're bringing the question to the table. And when I was thinking about this, I was thinking about the next generation coming into our business. They are curious and they are asking the questions why, and they are challenging the how. And actually, we need to be equipped to be welcoming that kind of approach to our work. And if we don't, I really do think attracting, retaining talent is going to be really difficult, because people are going to be like, well, if I'm not welcome here to bring my ideas and challenge, then I'll go somewhere else. So I really do think it's critical that we embed that into business culture.
So curiosity is really a strategy.
Yes.
For the future.
Indeed.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very conscious when you work for Get Abstract, anything over 15 minutes. I think we're on nearly 20. But are there any questions people would like to ask? You'll be welcome to ask any other questions. Yes? Yeah.
Hi, my question is...
Pop it near. Thank you.
Hi. So you mentioned that after you joined, the viewership went up, the activity on this platform went up. So my question is, what impact did it have on the organization? Did you see higher employee satisfaction, higher retention?
Yeah.
I don't know. So what impact did you see?
Really great question. So the impact. So we do something called a voice score each year, and that basically it asks the question, have I got the opportunity to grow and thrive at L&G? And we saw that mark actually be really quite low last year. And what we've seen is actually the increase to grow has gone up, but the same things that are coming out in our survey is the time element. So as I say, this has been going for about Get Curious has been going on for about 9 months, and Stay Curious has been going on for about 6 months. And we've been building more communities like Stay Curious about ways to work, inclusion, sustainability, climate, etc. And I think the other measures that I've seen on impact is when we started doing this, there'd be like 30 people would come to a talk. The last one we held, we had 400 registrations and 290 people show. 291 people show. So actually, in the space of 9 months, we've managed to get enough of the word out there for people to actually be interested in coming to these talks. We saw an increase of platforms like Power BI go up after we've held the talk. So a lot more people went and actually downloaded the software, starting to use it for reports, which is fantastic. And we've had more requests on coming into actual business team days and running certain programs or content, etc., with them to get them to think differently. So the biggest shift I've seen is that people are actually open to thinking differently about how they work, which is something that, to be honest, 2 years ago, most people would be like, I'm fine, I don't need to change my behavior, and they wouldn't engage with it. But we've actually seen such a pull for that now, and they're wanting us to get involved, which is great.
Thank you so much. I say we don't have much longer, but just to thank you. If we could just flick one more slide. I think we've done that. Just to point out, this gentleman here is speaking at 1:15. This subject is fascinating, and I made a few notes actually from the man himself that this subject didn't exist 5 years ago. So this is new stuff. Curiosity has always been here, but as a topic for this audience, for learning leaders, it's new. So. Yes, Stefan is speaking at 1:15 in the conference. But if you go one more, thank you. There's a free QR code to the summary of his book. But Emma, I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your very busy day. I've witnessed that, to speak with us. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. And if anyone wants to chat afterwards, please do let me know. I'm around.
Yeah, we'll be hanging around the stand behind you. And find us on LinkedIn. And thank you very much for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you.